Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 241st ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing just fine, Cameron. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. You been up to anything interesting lately?
You know, it's now that sports season is, at least for me, in my personal interests, is kind of waning, kind of wrapping up for the year.
Shots fired at baseball.
Waning crescent. Yeah, baseball, we talked about that last week, not really interested. So college football is probably like the next big sporting thing that I'm interested in. So this is definitely like movie and, you know, TV show, video game time for sure. So got the old GameCube out recently.
Ooh,
you know, kind of dipping back into the past. So it's been kind of fun. But
nostalgia trip.
A little nostalgia. You guys are GameCube guys, right?
Mm.
Oh yeah.
GameCube, PS2. Yeah.
All N64 even. I
never had one.
Oh really?
But fantastic system.
I got it out the other day, and I don't even think I have the right cords to get it going. So I had to see if I can make a couple investments.
They don't make consoles like they used to with the GameCube.
It's true.
A handle, you can carry it around.
It's lasted a long time.
Yeah. What's your go-to GameCube game? I already know this. Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'm not gonna lie, pretty elite at Super Smash, Melee, and yeah, Double Dash is good.
Yeah,
Cameron's elite at Double Dash.
Best Double Dash racer I know.
Best one I know.
Whoa, my goodness. Okay. Yeah, GameCube, fantastic console. I've got all mine put away. I used to have all my consoles in the living room. I had them all hooked up where I could play anything I wanted.
Just anytime you got the itch, you just like knew exactly where to go.
Yep.
You know?
I could switch from, whatever Call of Duty to NCAA Football 14 to Double Dash to Sega Genesis.
Wow.
But now I have a 1-year-old, so all that stuff got put away.
Yeah. It is almost NCAA 14 season 2. We're coming up on that.
Yeah, I need to dig out the 360, get that up and running. Kyle, what all do we have to talk about today? It's going to be kind of a similar episode to last week. We're talking recruiting. We're talking transfer portal. There's some news out of Mizzou football recruiting that's not the best, but we'll see. Maybe we can spin it somehow, some way. And there was an interview with Dennis Gates that just happened today. I want to talk about a little bit. Before we get into all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review wherever you listen to us, and of course, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. Kyle, feels like 2 days ago we talked about Tyon Gray committing to Mizzou, in-state defensive lineman.
Yeah, I think I saw he committed 26 days ago.
Was it that long ago? Okay.
If it doesn't even feel that long.
No. Well, forget it, because now he's committed to Oregon.
He's gone.
The old decommit and announce your new destination in one Notes app post.
The old bait and switch. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, not only did he didn't just decommit, he flipped all at once.
In April. So that stings a little bit.
That that flat out just sucks.
Yeah.
There's really no way to spin that one. Pretty highly rated recruit, was kind of the best, most highly rated recruit that we had in the class so far, probably by a pretty easy margin. In-state guy. So
we're talking about class of 2024. Still very early in that entire process, but as I kind of alluded to last week, it's not been. Now help me out a little bit here, because I'm looking at this and thinking I'm worried. But now maybe help me with the timeline here, because have we looked considerably better? Have we looked like we're in a much better position in mid-April in previous years than we are right now? Or am I just looking too far ahead and projecting too far out about what I think could go wrong?
I think a little bit of both. I think that there have been years in the Drinkwitz era that we've gotten off to a really good start, but I mean, truly, this is really before things get going in recruiting, and there's still, I think we're even in like a dead period right now, and there's just not a lot of recruiting that goes on in April and May. So, I think that's what we just have to keep telling ourselves here is that things kind of seem a little dead right now, and we're in a weird spot, and it seems like we're only getting bad news and stuff like that. We talked about Andrew Sprague last week, who committed to Michigan, and then, of course, the decommit today. So we're in like a little bit of a weird spot. We've got 3 guys committed. That's Daniel Kalen, who's a quarterback from Nebraska, Ryan Justice, offensive lineman from Missouri, and then Whit Hafer, who's a tight end. So it's nothing that blows you away, but I still think that it's good that we have our quarterback committed for the class. That's obviously kind of your cornerstone leader who's going to help build the class. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely easy to kind of get down a little bit, and hopefully we can kind of just see past this little bit of time that we're in, and hopefully things get better. I do kind of feel like, I don't know, does it feel like Drinkwitz has been a little more publicly available, a little more active in the past than I feel like I don't hear from him on Twitter very much anymore.
Yeah, I'm struggling to know if it's like it's impossible for me to put my mind into previous Aprils specifically,
right,
to see how we stack up. But
because this is still usually spring football territory.
Yeah, we usually don't know a whole lot at this point. Yeah. But man, with Sprague committing to Michigan, we knew that was going to happen basically. But man, and then just seeing posts he's recruiting other guys to Michigan immediately, talking about welcome home, come home stuff. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, come home. That's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't have a great answer for either, Cameron. It's tough to know, and honestly, from an outside perspective, I feel like I'm comfortable saying things have felt better in other Aprils than they do right now. And I think we've had more momentum than we do right now. But, things can change so quickly in recruiting. I still think we'll probably add a few impact guys in the transfer portal. And we've talked about it in the Discord a little bit. I do think that there's obviously a lot of pressure to win this year. And I think we have the team to do that, which can easily turn things around in recruiting, that can create momentum out of nowhere. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dance around it. There's a ton of pressure on this season and to perform early.
Yeah. So the pressure from the Drinkwitz era of just the wins and losses after each season was already there. And now if we are going into games this fall with not much going on for the 2024 recruiting class, if it's a significant drop off, I just got to think through this out loud a little bit. The 2023 class was kind of seen as a little bit of a step down compared to the previous 2, right? But then we'd be looking at the slate of recruits, prospects, especially in the state of Missouri for 2024, and we're thinking, no big deal, we can right this ship and easily put together the same kind of class, maybe not with a headliner like Luther Burden, but the pieces are all there to have a class like 2021, 2022. Mm-hmm. So
I think one thing also, just kind of a caveat to keep in mind, is just at least for the foreseeable future, I don't really think high school recruiting is ever going to be what it used to be. And we're still just in this totally new territory, really, in the last 3 to 5 years, where everything right now is totally different from where it was pretty recently. And you're just not going to be getting the immediate talent in high school like you maybe were looking for in the past, just because of the existence of the transfer portal and how important that is now.
Does that hurt for you specifically as someone who used to just keep up with high school football recruiting way more than even your average Mizzou fan?
I mean, I think I still do to some extent, but I don't know.
Does it feel like it's not worth it as much?
Sometimes, yeah. And just because guys just transfer so much, sometimes it does. If I want to get in my feels a little bit, I think I can go there where it's why do I even put in the time? Because sometimes these guys are just gonna never make it to campus, and if they do, they gotta swim upstream just to see the field and stuff. Yeah, that's certainly something.
But another aspect of that is if you're looking at the like top 10 players in the state of Missouri every year, even if they're going elsewhere, you still got to keep those names in the back of your head. And there's this whole new aspect of like, okay, maybe I kind of, let's just, whoever, maybe I kind of do want to be paying attention to how many offensive line commits Michigan gets. Maybe I do want to be paying attention to what the wide receiver depth chart at Ohio State looks like, because there's some familiar names that might be looking for more playing time eventually.
Yeah, I mean, you still want to just familiarize yourself with the guys in Missouri, because there's a pretty good chance you're gonna get another shot at them in a year or two, and we've seen that happen with a few guys that are currently on the roster. So,
just inventing new ways to get your heart broken, basically, is what I'm doing over here.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Okay, so we talked about Gray and Sprague, guys that were already Missouri Tigers that are no longer. Luke Griffin, Bobby Lawrence, and Gavin McKay. I don't think I'm missing anybody else, but I think all three of those guys have entered the transfer portal from Missouri since we last spoke.
Yeah, Luke Griffin was a guy that gave us some good snaps in the past, but wasn't a guy that I think you probably wanted to rely on. I think he was just was able to provide some relief whenever we had injuries and stuff like that. Gavin McKay was kind of a receiving specialist tight end who as far as I'm concerned, I don't know that he ever saw the field as in a game. He was kind of one of those boomer bust prospects I thought like could be really successful if he was able to kind of find his niche, but obviously that never really happened. And then Bobby Lawrence was a guy that I'm pretty sure he had been in the program for maybe 4 or 5 years, but didn't see the field a whole lot either. So we kind of knew that this was going to happen. Happens every year. We have to shave off a few guys to make way for transfers or whatever it is, guys coming in. So I think we were over the limit quite a bit. So you kind of knew some of the defections were coming, but just didn't know who or when. But I like it to some extent. Obviously, the new offensive line coach seems to be he's come in and set new expectations and
shaking things up a little bit.
Shaking things up, and I think that we probably needed that.
And there may be more shake-up. I still think that the Houston offensive lineman that was in the transfer portal, I mean, him following his coach to Mizzou still seems like pretty likely. I don't know.
Yeah, Cameron Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know if he's if there's any other big programs in on him, but makes sense to me that he would want to follow his coach to Mizzou.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Arkansas had offered.
Yeah.
Before the show we were talking about it,
Yeah.
but I think Missouri's in a good spot, and we've talked about it that he's an interior offensive lineman, which is pretty much exactly what we need. Pretty good chance to come in and start immediately if he were to commit to Missouri. So that's Cameron Johnson's definitely a guy to keep an eye on.
Okay, so it's been a little negative so far. Now, it is important, you kind of mentioned it, winning on the field this season could change everything, and having some momentum at the beginning of the season is huge, not only for recruiting, but also, if we actually see some of these recruits, lead us to 8+ wins this coming season, then I feel like there's multiple ways for the staff to kind of take the pressure off themselves. Mm-hmm. And one way is signing a really nice, shiny new recruiting class that kind of relieves the pressure of your on-the-field success.
Which has perpetually been the thing that Coach Drinkwitz has been able to kind of point to his entire coaching career at Missouri.
And people like us who try to stay positive and spin things positively are like, okay, let's let these recruits grow into their roles in the system.
And we're getting there.
Yeah, this is it, basically. This is do
or die.
Yeah, so especially, I hate how the rumbling starts, but you can't argue with the lack of success. If this recruiting class goes how it's trending right now, which is not the best, if this is a further drop off from 22 to 23, now to 24, and we don't see wins on the field, it's going to be a little bit dicey, I think.
Yeah.
But it's far enough away that we don't need to dwell on it too much. And the good news is we have had these players in the program now for a little while to where we should see noticeable improvement on the field, wins and losses this season.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's what you can point to is I think we are poised to have a shot at a successful season. You're never out of it with the transfer portal recruiting.
Yeah.
And ask me where we're at in a couple months, and maybe we have a little more accurate answer for you in the recruiting game.
And I think in previous years, I would say, you know what, give me 2 really solid recruiting classes in a row, and I will take that, and I'll deal with the 6-6 season. I think it's getting to the point now, if I had to choose one or the other, I'm ready to see 8+ wins.
You want to see wins?
Well, I mean,
instead of
if I'm sacrificing one or the other, like I feel like we have enough of the bedrock built, and there is enough in the transfer portal.
You're not, yeah, for sure. I got you. We were able to kind of excuse it away as these guys are too young, haven't had time to develop yet, but we don't really have that excuse anymore. Coach Drinkwitz doesn't have that excuse anymore.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on away from football, unless you have anything else there are some new names in the basketball transfer portal. There's been some developments in guys that Missouri was in on. Let's go ahead and cross some names off the list, starting with the guy that, if I had to put money on it, I would have maybe put a little money on him being a Missouri Tiger this time last week. And that was Caleb Love, who committed to Michigan. There was some rumblings that Michigan may be getting involved what felt like late in the process. And I don't know. This whole story with Caleb Love is so frustrating because I feel like there's plenty of people who legitimately didn't want him to come to Mizzou. And I felt at the time like that was a little silly. And now it's just like those fans are maybe looking at us like you didn't even get the player that wasn't actually that good that you thought you wanted. He was actually too good for you and went to Michigan. It stings a little bit, but
yeah, I think what is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Fool me won't get fooled again.
Yeah,
That's what George W. Bush said.
I like that. That's how this felt a little bit. Was like, okay, surely we're getting Caleb Love on the second time around, right? And still got big timed a little bit, so felt a little bit silly after that one.
And also we talked about Fardal Zamak. He committed to Cal following his former coach from Utah Valley, who was hired as the Cal head coach. So cross him off the list.
And that seemed a little unlucky because I again felt, maybe we don't know anything based on how the Caleb Love thing went. Maybe we don't know this a dang thing. But again, that felt like one that was, Missouri was well positioned, and then all of a sudden they weren't whenever the former coach situation came into play.
And we talked about Micah Handlogton. He committed to Florida. So swing and a miss there. Kalel Ware, who, I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot of Mizzou momentum there, but he committed to Indiana. We had previously talked about him. Jamarion Sharp got a 24/7 Sports crystal ball prediction to Ole Miss that has since been rescinded. So a little bit of a scare there, but maybe Mizzou is just as in it as ever. Literally, who knows? Not us.
We don't know.
Virginia transfer Caden Shedrick had a visit scheduled to Missouri and one other school, I can't remember which one, for like April 19th, I think.
Texas.
Okay. And he has since canceled those visits or postponed them to be decided because of, quote, personal things that came up. So who knows there.
Yeah, he was also like rumored to be like Duke was a player for him, and then they since had one of their players return, and so I wonder if that's impacting the situation to some extent.
So where are we now? That leaves us with also, we're still interested in Shedrick. we are also still interested in Tamar Bates, the Indiana transfer, originally from Missouri. Caleb Grill, I don't remember if we've talked about him on the podcast, but he's a transfer from Iowa State who had a falling out with the coaching staff, entered the portal. He's would only have 1 year of eligibility. He's kind of a three-point shooting 3-and-D guard, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So he seems to still be in the mix. I believe he's visiting at some point soon.
Mm-hmm.
But
he left Iowa State early this season. You mentioned the falling out.
Yeah.
So didn't play the full season.
Right. But the biggest name to pay attention to that is a new entry that Missouri is in on is Florida State transfer Matthew Cleveland. And he was recruited to Florida State by none other than CY. So there's a connection there. Would love to see Matthew Cleveland join Mizzou. He's 6'7" forward. He's like 6'7", 200 pounds. Incredibly long arms. He was like almost averaged a block shot per game at 6'7". And I watched some of his highlights. Really good shooting form, quick release. Shot, I think, 35% from three. He can kind of do it all, honestly. He was not very efficient this past season at Florida State, but their whole team was kind of a mess. And offensively, nobody was very good. But he played a ton of minutes. I think started all 30 games for them last year. And there's the recruiting connection. I mean, CY's already recruited him once. I would love to see him join the squad. The only thing is, I don't know, with the roster makeup, I don't know how much it makes sense. He has 2 years of eligibility, but I don't know. We don't really 6'7" forward. Like, we got a couple of those guys that are going to be commanding a lot of minutes, assuming Kobe Brown returns.
Yeah, I remember thinking that last year about DeAndre Golston a little bit, and I was like, I kind of thought he might be the odd man out a little bit. But, we play more than 5 guys. We play more than 5 or 6 guys, and a talent like that, I think you absolutely find a way to get him in the floor. And it was confirmed that Missouri has made contact with him, so it seems like they're clearly interested, obviously. I don't think that's something I'd be too terribly worried about, even if Kobe does return.
Yeah, I said it in Discord, but I could actually, I don't know, if you could sell him on like coming off the bench and being like the 6th man of the year in the SEC and then taking over the team basically his senior year. But I don't know, 5-star recruit, like top 30 guy out of high school who hasn't had much success at Florida State. I feel like if you can't sell him on that, I could see him just going to a place where it's like, yeah, guaranteed, 35 minutes a game and all the shots you want to take. This is your team.
So who do you kind of see him in the pecking order, like being above him? Obviously Kobe, and then who else is he kind of fighting with there?
I feel like it's basically just Noah Carter, but you could have
Tonje maybe.
Yeah, you could have Carter come off the bench and be the 6th man, but then you're starting Kobe at the 5 basically, with Cleveland and Tonje at 4 and 3. I don't know. You can make it work. Not everybody has to start.
And I don't know that Tonje's a shoe-in to start either.
That's true.
I think Cleveland would probably be a better option potentially.
Bump Tonje from the starting lineup. That could be. You don't know what kind of...
Don't know where Kurt Lewis factors in either.
That's true.
But I kind of view him as a little bit farther down the list potentially.
For sure. Yeah, we talked about last week about like 4 guards and 4 forwards making up like a rotation of 8 contributors. Of course, I had Caleb Love in that mix of the 4 guards. Let's just slide Isaiah Mosley in there, perhaps.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Let me see where we are here. This segues perfectly into the Dennis Gates interview that I was watching. Ben Arnett tweeted out some clips of this interview where Gates was talking to the media. He was talking specifically about how roster additions must fit the system. His system. They're not just going to bring in a guy because he had high recruiting rankings or something. And he specifically described his system as good 3-point shooting, good assist to turnover ratio. He said as a team, his goal is to have the top assist to turnover ratio in the country and to put pressure on the opponent both on offense and defense. Well, Matthew Cleveland fits that description perfectly. I mean, for his size and who he can guard, definitely he can step out and make threes. He doesn't turn the ball over, and absolutely puts pressure on the opponent on offense with just everything that he can do.
Right.
He has like the athleticism and body type of like a slasher, but he can pull up and he can make mid-range shots, and he's good in transition. And then defensively, he's just kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like, can guard the perimeter, recover to block shots if a guy gets past him, can defend in the post just because of his length. So I think, putting those two things together, Matthew Cleveland seems like a perfect fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Sign me up for sure.
And then since we were mentioning Mosley, Dennis Gates did talk about Isaiah Mosley, said that the door is open for him to return, but that Mosley has greater aspirations in basketball, meaning playing professionally is all I can assume.
Yeah.
So
greater aspirations in basketball.
Yeah.
I thought you said than basketball.
Maybe that too.
Okay.
That's allowed.
Of course.
But yeah, so yeah, of course, you got to assume that he's wanting to play professionally, and he has to figure out if that path to professional basketball requires another year at Mizzou. And if that means, if the answer to that is yes, then I hope he starts every game next year.
At this point, if he's going to go through the process again and everything like that, I just don't know what you learned about him that you didn't already know. And maybe that's the case if he plays a full season. I don't know. But I kind of feel like if he wants to play professionally, especially at the NBA level, which I think he could, I just think he's got to put more on film at a higher level.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading some NBA draft stuff. We'll talk about Kobe in a sec, but I was reading about how, and this is fairly obvious from if you just kind of pay attention at all to the draft every year. Once guys get like 23 years old, like NBA teams are kind of checking out.
Exactly. And that's what worries me about Kobe Brown is, obviously I say worries me like, because I want him to come back because I'm a fan of Missouri, but I also am a fan of Kobe Brown, so I want him to do whatever is best for him. But that's why I think his decision is going to be so difficult, because it seems like genuinely he's going to make some money through NIL, and I'm sure he loves the University of Missouri and wants to come back and play another season. But he is like 22, 23 years old. He's getting up there. At some point, you age yourself out in the NBA like prospect process. The NFL is the same way. Like, at some point, you're just not going to, no matter what you do on the floor, you're not going to increase your stock for the next level. And I'm kind of afraid that Kobe Brown, he kind of hit his ceiling this year. He shot, nearly 40% from three, and he was incredibly efficient. I just don't know that he's going to have another season. He would have to have this season and probably something even better, losing another year. So that's what scares me a little bit. As far as rationality goes in his NBA stock process and everything. So if he were to leave this year, it wouldn't surprise me at all for that reason.
Coach Gates was asked about Kobe Brown in this little interview, and he said we won't know Kobe's decision until after the NBA draft combine process, which takes place May 15th through the 21st.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while.
He'll go through the drills and tests and everything and get feedback, with where he would be projected to be drafted or not at all. And I seen he has risen on some draft scouting services. I think I saw in the 40s, 48th maybe.
43 is
43, okay. And so, yeah, that's like fringe second round, like late second round pick, which...
It's basically just the most difficult decision ever because he's just right there. Like, he's probably going to get drafted. It's probably going to be like middle of the second round.
But that comes with basically zero guarantees.
Exactly.
It's a grind through the summer league to stick with a roster at that point.
Yeah. And
I don't know. I feel like just for both of those guys, just pure speculation, the NBA sticking on an NBA roster seems like a long shot for Mosley and Kobe Brown. They could both do it, but it would take an NBA team really believing in them. And NBA teams are much more inclined to believe in a guy when they're 19.
Yeah, exactly.
20 years old.
Exactly.
And so that just makes me think it's not going to happen for either one of them. Now, they could absolutely, both of them, absolutely tear it up in some overseas professional leagues.
Yep.
They could be dominant in those settings. And unlike with the NBA, that opportunity will absolutely be there this time next year.
Yeah.
So as a selfish Mizzou fan, I'm like, yeah, both of you come back, have an awesome season, lead us to a bunch of wins, and then ride off into the sunset, go make some money playing basketball professionally.
Yeah, from a selfish Mizzou fan perspective, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah. Now, I would argue, try not to be too biased here, I would argue that's a reasonably likely scenario.
Mm-hmm. I also doubt that Isaiah Mosley views the situation that rationally either.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Because that's just, and you shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. Players can't afford to do that.
Exactly. When you're the player, you just have to bet on yourself always. And we see it from the outsider, really rational perspective, which is not always right.
Yeah. Absolutely true.
That's why they play the games, right, Cameron?
Definitely. I had one more thing about Dennis Gates talking about a system, and some people in Discord were talking about like, oh, maybe add some rebounding to that system. But which yeah, I would agree with that. But
sprinkle a little bit in.
Yeah, a touch of rebounding, a pinch of rebounding. It is interesting to me, 3-point shooting, assist to turnover ratio, pressure the opponent both sides of the ball. That's kind of a broad framework to work within. And I still feel like there's potential to see a slightly different style of play next year. And adding a rim protecting, rebounding big, I think kind of changes the game for Mizzou basketball next year. Mm-hmm. And I would maybe even go as far as to say getting a guy committed from the transfer portal and being able to tell Kobe Brown, hey, look, you're going to have this basically this safety valve here where if you get in trouble, you can just dump it off to this guy and he can finish a dunk. If the double team comes to you, you're not going to have to worry about kicking it out to the perimeter. Yeah. You're going to have this post player down here ready to finish everything you send his way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Missouri will have no choice but to change their style of play a little bit. I think probably every coach in America would say they would like to create pressure on defense and offense both. So like you said, yeah, it's very broad.
Yeah.
I think they will have no other choice because ideally they do have a Jamarian Sharp or a rim protector in there, and also I kind of just think Demoy Hodge was like the greatest personnel ever for the style of play they played. Just great 3-and-D, get up and down the floor, quick release on his shot, high volume shooter. He was just
don't worry about rebounding at all.
Exactly, he was just the ideal candidate for the style of play, and obviously I think the hole he will leave, I think, might be a little bit bigger than we realize right now.
I was actually reading an article talking about his NBA draft profile, and I wish I could remember who it was, but they were talking him up quite a bit and just kind of he's undersized for the NBA, but they were saying, they wouldn't be surprised to see him in the summer league and then maybe be able to work his way in onto an NBA roster just because his shooting form and he can shoot it from deep and
it'll translate.
Yeah. And just bringing a guy in off the bench for spot minutes to just make shots and kind of create a little bit of havoc when the second unit is on the floor. Some NBA teams are going to be interested in that. Okay, so what do we think? So now we're looking at Honor, East, Mosley, Lewis, Tanjay, Carter, Kobe Brown, Jamarion Sharp. We still like that? Who am I forgetting? Trent Pierce coming off the bench. Aiden Shaw coming off the bench.
Yeah, I think you got to have a Tamar Bates in there.
Tamar Bates coming off the bench.
I think you got to have Shedrick maybe in there.
You want both of them?
I'm just saying, like, I think you got to add a couple more pieces for me to be super excited.
Matthew Cleveland, and I'm all in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just one or two of those guys from the transfer portal that we're in on currently, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to go watch some Matthew Cleveland highlights. He is just a special talent and athlete. But everybody that goes into the transfer portal has a list of like 80 schools that have reached out to them. Yeah. There must be, I'm imagining they're just like when you get sent a scholarship offer, you just get a letter in the mail, except in the transfer portal, it's just an email or like,
yeah, how does that even work?
Whatever in the portal itself, it's like, Dennis Gates liked your entry into the portal.
You got an instant message from Dennis Gates. Yeah. Hey, we are officially reaching out. You can tweet about this now. Tell the reporters that Missouri has reached out.
Tell on3.com that we have reached out.
Yeah, I have no idea what that looks like.
I saw that. I've probably said this before, but I saw that Arkansas has officially reached out to 90 recruits in the transfer portal. 90. And Missouri had a lot. Missouri was at like 45. Yeah, Arkansas was at 90.
Absolutely insane. And they've landed like 4 transfers.
Yeah. They got to be cooling off a little bit.
I think our buddy Tyler in the Discord said if I was in the transfer portal, I'm pretty sure Arkansas would reach out to me, which they probably would.
Yeah, I mean,
they'd probably say, "Hey, what's up?"
He's been tearing it up at the Rec, I heard.
That's true. Yeah, he's a baller.
Yeah.
I got a little something on Arkansas that I wanted to bring up that I meant to bring up in the football thing. If
okay.
You're ready to
Arkansas.
If you're ready to close out the show with
sure.
this, our old friend alert, Trajan Jeffcoat, which this kind of went silently into the night a little bit, but he transferred, and then something happened. Like
it was speculated to go to South Carolina because that's where he's from,
and then something happened.
Yeah,
and he didn't end up there.
Yeah.
And he ended up at Arkansas.
Of all places.
Of all places. There's always somebody. Every year. Barry Odom's little minions always end up at Arkansas.
Yes.
Anyways, Trajan Jeffcoat said something today or within the last couple of days.
Let's hear it.
I didn't write it down exactly, but it's something to the effect of, Fayetteville is a nice town, and it's a lot better than Columbia, which is where I was. And then, of course, the Arkansas reporter or whoever, if you can even say he's a reporter, or whoever tweeted this said, like, that's the quote of the spring or something like that to really get everybody going. Any thoughts on that, Cameron?
What is the deal here? There's they're doing something. This is a concerted effort.
They're egging them on.
To bring these guys from Mizzou to Arkansas, and then they're like, paying them extra if they'll trash Mizzou once they get there.
Some kind of black market for this thing.
Yes. They are peddling Mizzou hate in Fayetteville.
Yeah, they're all chanting like, say it, say it, like in the press conferences.
Yes. Say the line. And they say, Mizzou sucks. And then the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trevon Brazile, just nonstop.
I was like Trevon Brazile's #1 fan.
Everybody
he went to
was.
Kickapoo. I was like, he went to my alma mater.
He didn't play, but we saw his team play in the Tournament of Champions.
And now he's like public enemy #1.
We did nothing to him.
We did nothing.
Except
we
love.
Just extended a hand.
All we wanted to do was love him. And
nice guys finished last.
Arkansas did not offer him out of high school.
No.
Missouri offered him. But, whatever. Your coach gets fired. Who believed in you? Conzo Martin. What are you going to do? Except Dennis Gates offered him at Cleveland State. Dennis Gates believed in him too. No, not good enough.
So, Trajan Jeffcoat's on. He's on the list now, or
who cares?
Do we hate him, or
I don't care.
You don't care?
He's not. Ugh.
I care a little bit.
These are just college kids.
That's true. Trajan Jeffcoat's like 35.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
He's older than we are.
I don't think we're not going to have to worry about him on the field.
I'm going to
put that out there.
Oh wow, that's a clap back. Cam claps back.
We might yet have to worry about Brazile on the court.
Yeah, I think we will.
We need to do it the other way around a few times. Jeez. We owe them a couple. I don't want it though. I don't want their guys.
No. We don't want them.
Yeah. You're taking out the players from Mizzou that couldn't cut it. They couldn't make it.
They couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trayvon Brazil was on the team and we sucked. And the second he leaves, we're good.
Exactly. Is everybody forgetting that?
I just want to tweet that and then say "boom" in all caps.
Oh no, let's just leave it here.
Okay.
This is going to be on the internet already. So
nobody's listening anymore.
oh man. Okay. Well, is that it? Yeah, what's up?
Didn't you have a story?
Oh yeah, I was going to tell you a funny story. We were talking about Dennis Gates so much. I bought the Dennis Gates Volume 1 t-shirt. I showed it off on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Love that shirt. I was wearing it a lot the month of March, believe it or not.
Okay.
Lots of good reasons to wear it. So Olivia, she thought it was weird that she thought it was interesting that I was wearing a t-shirt with just somebody
Another
on
man.
it. Yeah. So she was like, what is this? And just like pointing at the shirt, like, who's that? So, of course, I had to tell her, this is Dennis Gates. We love him in this house.
Yeah.
And do we worship him? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So she would point at it and I would say, Dennis, and she would smile. We had a great thing going. So I haven't worn it in a while. And I put it on last night. And immediately she points at me and goes, Dan. Which is a big smile on her face. I'm like, that's absolutely right. That's Dennis.
I thought you were going to say, like, she ruined it or something. I don't know.
No, she would never.
She would never.
She just, nothing but respect.
Do you sleep in it?
I have slept in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good shirt.
That's how
you know.
Yeah. So,
Cool.
yeah, she loves the shirt.
I'm not surprised at all. She's very smart.
So, yeah, she's going to be a disciple of Dennis.
We all are.
Alongside her father. Okay, so thanks for reminding me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it for this week?
That's it.
Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above. I'm switching it up. Going back to front. Cooper Boyer, Matthew Tilley, Brandon Hanks, Brandon Garofalo, Tyler Harsel, Tim Keynes, Daddy JD, Parker, Ben Smith, Tristan, Ryan Demore, Brian Smith, Britt Treese, thank you.
Wow, that sounded almost a little bit weird. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
We should see if Google Podcast still exists.
Probably not.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week.
See you on Google Podcasts.
See if all of our predictions are wrong again.